All right, so this is where we left off last time, and now what we can focus on is the detail that comes right here in the middle. So for situations like this, for example, and let's say that this detail right here has even more micro details on top, what to do in that case, where, for example, we do not have enough geometry. So one way would be to subdivide everything. So then we have much more geometry. But the thing is that we can also reuse only this part of the selection for that. So what I mean by that is that this is just an example and we won't do it, but I just want to mention it as a possibility, is that what we would do is we would create a break. So let's say this here, I will just again add a loop here and select this loop. This would be the break between two surfaces. So what we can do is go to Detach Components. And now when I select faces here and faces here, it appears that we have two separate objects. But this is still one object, it's just that the surfaces are no longer connected. And then what we can do is we can select this and go to Smooth Faces. And then we would get much more geometry here for even finer details. But this is something we won't do now. I just wanted to mention that this is an option in many situations where you need to, let's say, grow in the detail, but you do not want to subdivide the complete surface. Okay, so what we need to do here is then add the same loop around that we have here. And basically, the ideal situation would be if we could select, let's say, these parts. I now want to select this. Basically, if we select all of these parts like so, and then let's do a small offset, and then we would do get this perfect loop around. The problem is, you see what's happening to the edges, so it's not an option in this case. So the easiest would be if we could just rearrange the edges so that they fit to this opening like so. So I'm arranging it to the side because for some reason it's not on the same side. Probably the photo was taken on the angle or something. So let's do the same thing here. I'm gonna just push this down. Oh, okay, so this is still a broken surface. Let me just go a couple of steps back until this is complete surface. Okay, so now we have it. All right, so let's bring this a bit down till here. And I'm just gonna eyeball it like so. And the same thing here at the bottom. So I'm just gonna stretch this here and stretch this here and stretch it here. All right, so the question is maybe why we didn't just move everything here down. Mainly because if we move it more down, what can happen is that, let me just go into smooth preview. You will see that then we will lose the structure here and it will appear much sharper. So what we have is already established curve here that I like. And then what we can do is just reuse this part the same way as we did before. So if I just go to, let's say, to add a small offset with an extrude, then we would get this as a result. Now, again, the thing is, what is happening is that, again, we have this uneven spread. So before we do any extrusion or beveling, let me just remove everything here in the middle. And then we have clean geometry like so. It's much easier to work with, and small extrusion. Let me just see how that works. Okay, so I kind of missed the mark, or maybe we can select this area. Let's then bevel it. Let's go to uniform and smaller segments. So you also notice what's happening here when the bevel is stronger is that we are then losing the curvature here. So if you have a stronger bevel, what maybe we would need to do is add one more support here maybe. So then when we're using that bevel, that we are not losing so much of a curve. So I'm gonna then just go here to uniform, So you see that now this is contained within this little space and it's not going there, because that is going to be a highlight. And if you see distortions on the surface, it may come from there. So we're gonna see how this performs for us. Oops. And let me now go here and again, just double click on this. And let's do a small offset again. And the same thing happening here. So maybe better we just add one more cut in the middle. Double click on it and add a bevel with uniform and center. Like that. And just bevel it inside. Actually, I'm sorry, extrude it on the inside. And there we are. So the only thing is left is to add the same structural edges like we had before. And there we are. So I'm just checking how this looks and what can be still fine-tuned here. Like this maybe, and let's push this one also a bit down so it's more of a curve. And I think it's fine. It's gonna be fine. And now what we can do is we can focus on this part right here. But before we do, what I would like to do also is just remove some of the unnecessary edges. So for example, all of these edges in the middle are not so much structural edges. So basically this edge and this edge, they are, because they are holding this shape together. So what I would like to do is just add a couple of cuts here in the middle to not leave an empty space, but more of an even and organized cuts. Here we can do the same, so just maybe one in the middle, and I think that will be enough. All right, so what we're gonna do here is the same thing that we did in that example before, and that is that we add one more cut here in the middle, and then double click on it, and then right click detach. So what we're going to do is this is now going to be a separate object. So to make it a separate object, we just need to double click on it again to select everything and go to shift right click extract faces. So this will now be, when I hit Q to confirm, this will now be a separate object and this will now be a separate object. So now we have two objects. The problem is that my axis is way up. So again, what I'm going to do, hit D, right click, reset pivot, hit D again. And again, D is just a hotkey for edit pivot. All right, so what we can do is just push it a bit up like so that it's a bit on the outside. Let's select it, Control 1 to isolate it. And again, just shift and extrude. Let's delete this double loop. And there we are. So now we have this. The only thing that we are missing from this area is this little cut right here. So I'm going to add a small cut here in the middle. And let's switch here. And what I'm going to do is just even it out with the slide and scale, like so. And what we can do is now use bevel. All right. Hit Q to confirm, and let's select it, Control 1 to isolate, and now we can work on it as a standalone object. Here I don't like how this turned out to be, so let me do one more extrusion like so. Or let me see. Actually, select all of this and extrude it like this. All right. So what I would like to do is add one more edge loop here, because there is a little ridge here inside. So this we need to delete. So basically we need to remove this part like so. And then what we need to do next is just bridge these two together. So let's go to Shift, right click, bridge, Q to confirm, and let's select this, and let's go to Shift, right click, fill hole, select this and hit the G to repeat the same operation. All right, so now we have a lot of open areas here, and this is an N-gun, this is an N-gun, and this is an N-gun. So what we need to do is just connect these points together. So what I like to do is just use multicut, and let me go out from symmetry for a second. And I'm gonna hit, again, while holding control, I'm gonna hit middle mouse. And this will just create a cut right in the middle. And then I can select these two and go to connect components. And here as well, and hit G to repeat. And we just need to repeat the same thing here. So I'm gonna just middle mouse click, select these 2 points, and this time actually we can use symmetry. And let's hit Shift, right click, and connect components. And these two will hit G, it will just repeat the previous operation. All right, and we have one final loop left. So we need to just close the open edges, connect components, Shift, right click, connect components. All right, so when we subdivide, we have something like this. Now there's one thing that I would like to do is add one edge loop here in the middle. All right, so one thing maybe I would like to do is select this mid loop and a bit down like so that we have slight curve right here. All right, and if you remember what we were talking about, and maybe one more tiny bit, just like so. When we were talking about supportive edges, so basically this edge has one edge here, and ideally we would need to have one more edge right here. So what we need to do for this is exactly the same thing. So what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to remove this edge loop from this area and this edge loop here, and just Control Delete so that we are left with the basic shape, and just maybe turn the symmetry off if there is some leftover geometry. And you will see when you see a mistake like this. So for example, this will just show you that there is something left and we just need to delete it. So basically I'm just trying to bring this as a basic object as we can. So we have done something like this. And then we're going to need to bring back all these supportive edges. So I'm going to select all of these edges now. So this one here, this one, and I need symmetry back, and this two, basically everything that we need to have beveled, that we want to have, let's say, sharpened view. Now you will see what problem we will get. We have a lot of open edges here, so they're searching for a place to connect. And the next edge to connect to is here. And this is fairly large distance for something to be connected. So this is something that we are searching for, but the connection is still missing. So what we need to do before we do anything is just even out the spread of the edges. So let's add a couple of more edges here. So maybe even more here in this area and one more here. And I'm gonna add here as well. All right, so now we're gonna see what's the difference. So let's select everything one more time. Here as well, and I believe that is all. And let's now do bevel. I'm gonna do maybe center, and let's do, no, uniform won't work. Let me see what uniform does. Nah, let's go to auto. All right, and yeah, I did miss this edge. All right, so let's do it one more time. Okay, basically, no, I do not maybe want this edge because, again, I just want to show you what I'm thinking while I'm doing this, because I will now leave one open. So let's say that one I don't need like we had before. So maybe it's making it more confusing, but okay, let's select this one and leave this one open. And I'm gonna select this and leave it at auto. So what happens is that this edge right here will have this connection. So let's create this, let's connect this to here, and let's do this one here. So basically now we have quads. You will see the difference. This one will be more smooth and this one will be more sharper, simply because this one has only one edge here and this edge has two surrounding him, because we redirected some of the edges. So basically that just means why I would like to select one and one not. So let's just deselect all of them, because we would then get much more smoother transition. So let's hit bevel one more time and let's leave it all on auto. And let's now see how everything behaves. Just double checking before I hit that Q to confirm. All right, so we missed something here. Actually, I missed something. So here, one, and let's do Control B again. And maybe center and uniform. And let's see it now. Now everything should be in order. So basically our main edge has two supportive edges and every edges now have their supports. All right, I think this will do. And there's just one last thing that is left. I'm checking on my pen. And basically what it is that we don't see it here, but this is a bit curved. So there is a small curvature here on the side. So in order to do the curvature, what I would like to do first is just even the spread of edges first. Because what we're going to do is we're going to use a bend deformer to bend this. And bend deformer, if you were checking our bend deformer videos, you would see that deformers work best when there's even geometry across the surface, and there is no empty room. Let's say like I wanted to show this. When there is no empty spaces like this unbending, then just it won't be enough geometry to bend that object. So let's now go here to the form and nonlinear bend. And you will not notice it here, but let's go to outliner. You will see that now we have bend one handle. We talked about it more in the formers video. So if you want to get a bit more in depth in the formers, please check that video. But I'm going to close the outliner and I'm going to hit T. I think is a hotkey standard for this to show the handles. So basically if I now select this line and hit T, you will now get this little handles, which you can now manipulate in a specific way. Now this is bending in the wrong way. So what I'm going to do is just rotate it in a proper direction. And I'm going to again select this, hit T to get this handles and just find proper position. So let's say maybe this will be fine. So let's say this will work. And once I'm done with the deformer, I will just delete the history. So deleting the history will apply this to our object. So let's select it one more time. And maybe one thing that I would like to do is detach this. And also then we can delete this whole part. And then what we can do is just extrude it, use scale to even it out, and then push it inside. And then we have something like that. And basically that is all that there is. So for example, now if we would like to add, let's say, different materials to different pieces, what we would do is now again use the same procedure as before. So let's now go ahead here, select this. So Control-1 to isolate. And I'm going to use M for multi-cut, create a cut right here in the middle, and select this cut. And then let's go to Shift, right click, and then Detach Components. And now this is again going to be a separate selection. And this separate selection, we can now again control 1 to isolate it all, go to face, and then just double click on any polygon, and this will just select the selection until it's furthest until it goes. And then now we can go and extract faces and hit Q to confirm. And basically extract faces will do basically just like it says, it will extract our selection from the objects. So now what we have are 3 separate objects. So now we can also maybe do the same thing for the top. So again, I'll just control 1 and click. Create a small little cut here in the middle. Double click on it. Detach components. Q to confirm. Object mode. Face mode. Select this part and extract faces. Hit Q to confirm. Go to object mode. Click away, and there we are. Control 1 to bring everything back. So now we have all these as a separate objects. So what we can do with that is now we can apply different materials. So let's say I want to apply a different blend. Let's go to right click, material attributes. I'm just going to use a quick preset, click select, and play with the color a bit. So here, and then let's go here to material attributes, select, just play with the color like so. And then we can select here and maybe apply different materials as well. Or we can select here and select blue one, and here this one. And then we have maybe something like that. All right, I believe that this wraps it up and that we covered most of the things that we wanted to cover. And as a small overview, I would just like to again mention that with the cylindrical objects, we just need to be careful to have enough segments so that those segments can support the details in the future, and how we can also reuse, let's say, some of the geometry and split it later. And maybe also like here, for example, we can just smooth it up and add even more geometry and then work our details up from there. Also, important thing to take care of is supportive edges. So meaning that our edge always has 2 edges supporting it, so that it always has some room where it can basically stretch and without going into any deformations. So yeah, more or less I think that is all. And then we're going to continue with creating a tablet. So I would like to thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.